The podcast where the mic drops happen. This is the ShaeMac Show. Right. And welcome to the ShaeMac Show. I am kicking off this episode with my very special guest, women's sports writer, Miss Lyndsey D'Arcangelo. Lindsey, how are you doing on this evening?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Lindsey, we're just going to just kick off this episode with because some people just don't know, for some weird reason, don't know who you are, but this is an opportunity, for them to know who you are. So, we're just going to kick off this episode real quick with you introducing yourself, giving us your background in sports, things of that nature.
Yeah, I cover women's sports, primarily the WNBA, women's college basketball. I wrote for the Athletic WBB for about almost 6 years. Recently left and been doing some column writing for Awful Announcing on the WNBA and sort of more like media centric. But yeah, longtime sports writer.
Yeah, Lindsey, and we definitely appreciated your work on The Athletic. Don't get, and we're definitely going to miss seeing your work, seeing your columns, seeing your articles, because I think they just lost someone extremely huge, but that's just my take.
Appreciate that.
All right. But let's get started because we don't talk about this season enough. This has been an epic WNBA 2024 season. So, overall, what are your thoughts on this season? Is this what you expected? Did you expect more? Let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has exceeded expectations as far as what this, the topic of conversation really has been this rookie class and what this rookie class has brought as far as media attention, fandom, conversation, but also basketball on the court and what they're doing, what they have done. Obviously there's a little adjustment period from the start of the season till now, but we saw Angel Reese just today set the record for 7 straight double doubles. No other rookie in WNBA history has done that. I believe she had 16 points and 18 boards. So, I mean, we're talking about performances like that, just sort of setting the bar. And then you throw in all the other talent that we have from the vets and the journey players, and you just have, you have the recipe for a really good WNBA season.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree there. This has been an epic WNBA season. I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm happy because the league is now finally starting to get the attention that it deserves. Something that I think you and I can both have a mutual agreement on and agree that it should have gotten from the get go because this ain't the first time women's basketball has seen talented players. And this is my hot take on it. It would definitely not be the last. This is not even a beginning to what we're going to see in the WNBA for years to come.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, there's been talent before. I think in the age of social media and what we have now, and then you add NIL at the college level, where these players already have brands and already have a ton of fans before they're even coming into the league. That's going to carry over, and we're just going to see this kind of snowball year after year from this point on, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely gotta agree. I'm just happy that we're having a season. I'm definitely having it where for the first time in, a hot minute or the first time really ever in years that the talk of sports sometimes can be the WNBA. We're finally seeing WNBA players trend on social media. And it's not just because they're looks or things like that. It's because they're actual talent and what they bring to the court every day and every night.
Yeah, I agree. You're seeing a lot more. I'll throw out ESPN because that's a more recognizable one. Bleacher Report. You're seeing them share, um, players like Angel Reese, like I mentioned today, when they do, magnificent things or have like a crazy good game, they will share that on social media, and that wasn't always the case before with those media companies, and now it's a regular thing. I feel like I do think some of the conversation has gotten a bit overwhelmingly toxic in some areas. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I'd like to see it get back to more, like you said, about the basketball, which I think as the season goes on, it will. Once everything is sort of calmed down a bit, I think every time there's a topic of conversation that pops up, a play that happens in a game, particularly against Caitlin Clark in Indiana, it sparks a bit of outrage from a certain faction, and we don't need that. That's
We
the stuff we
definitely
don't
don't.
we don't need. I agree that having the WNBA be the topic of conversation comes with like good and bad. I'd like to see more good thrown in.
Yeah, I definitely do. And we're going to get a little bit into the Caitlin Clark saga because to me, it's a player that, yes, deserves all the attention, but at the same time, in some way, people like her and Angel Reese gets too much hate. And it's just, I just feel like, people are using their names for the wrong reason. And we don't want this to be another, reason or excuse for people to use the race war and we don't need that garbage here. Let's talk about their game. Let's talk about what they bring to the court. Let's talk about what they've done so far as young women, young, beautiful women in the sport of basketball. Black, white, orange, green, blue, or purple. If you can hoop, you can hoop. If you can shoot, you can shoot. You can ball, you can ball. And Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are two players without question who we can definitely agree that can ball. That's why they're here, and that's the reason why we got put on to them. It wasn't just about their looks, especially with Angel Reese. It's about what they done on the court. Because if they were not such these great players in the NCAA, will we even care that they're in the WNBA? Will we even care that they're here? Will they even have this platform? Let's just stick to that because they're known as basketball players and as athletes, before they're known as anything else to the public, obviously, besides human beings.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's no argument for me on that. Let's concentrate on basketball. And I also think they're highly competitive people and individuals. They both talk a little trash. They both, when they get on the court, they want to win. That's all part of it. That's all wrapped in up who they are, and it comes across when they play, especially when they play each other. They have this budding rivalry that we can all lean into and leave that other stuff to the side.
Yeah, just don't even bother it. But speaking of the WNBA, speaking of the teams, we got to get into this because there's a lot of teams we could argue that's in the conversation right now as your top teams in the WNBA. So obviously we have the Connecticut Sun, who is ranked number 1 at 13-1. We have the Lynx and the Liberty, who are tied at number 2 in the league, but obviously they have the Lynx number 2, the Liberty number 3 at 12-3, and then behind them it's the Storm, who is 9-6, and then you have the Las Vegas Aces, who shockingly is top 5, because I think you and I both can expected them to be number 1, but they are 7-6, and then you have the Mercury, who is number 6 at 8-7. So who would your top 5 teams in the WNBA be right now?
Yeah, great question. So Connecticut Sun for me is number one, and it's not just because they have the best record. I tweeted this maybe yesterday or the day before, but I think they're the most complete team and have been since the beginning of the season. I know there's a knock against them that they don't shoot a lot of threes. They honestly don't need to. They have
Right.
such a
I was
great
just about to
tag
ask that.
game. Yeah, and they've really been thriving off their defense and getting out in transition, and that's worked really well for them. They're just really complete at every position, from starters to bench. And then, yes, they haven't played some top tier teams consistently. I know that's the other knock on them. But I mean, a win's a win, and they're 13-1. You still have to go out and win the game. You still have to go out and play the game. So I'm going to take them. Number 2, I'm gonna go with the Liberty over the Lynx. Um, I love what the Lynx are doing this year. They're a surprise team for me. I kind of always underestimate the Lynx because they're the team that kind of quietly sneaks up on you. You're not really sure their roster looks good on paper, but you're kind of like, okay, what's this gonna look like? And then boom, they just Nafisa Collier like just shoots a jumper in my face consistently to make me change my mind. Um, so I'm gonna go Connecticut, New York, because New York's just they're playing really well. Minnesota, I'm gonna bump the Aces up to 4th because Chelsea Gray is back. I know she only played some limited minutes last night, but I think
She
that's
was a
gonna be a
game
spark.
changer.
That's gonna be a spark for them. And Asia Wilson, I mean, she's the best player in the league right now. You can't count them out. And then lastly, I'm gonna put Phoenix over Seattle. I know Seattle has the better record, but now that BG is back with Phoenix and she's been balling the past few games, I like the Phoenix all out. We're gonna green light. We're gonna shoot it from anywhere. And now they have the inside game going with Brittany, and they're gonna be better on defense, I think, because of her. Now that she's back as well, so that's my 5: Connecticut, New York Liberty, Minnesota, uh, Aces, Phoenix.
You know what? I definitely, it's hard to argue. I will put Seattle number 5, but I could definitely understand where
Fair.
you are at Phoenix because Diana Taurasi still playing at a high,
Yeah.
at a high level. And if I'm not mistaken, she's in year 18, year 20. So that's like, the, wow, that's just insane.
She's 42
Everybody,
years old. It's wild.
yeah, 42. And everybody was before the year calling her washed, a has been, things like that. But she is low key been showing people that she has not lost a step. We might not be seeing her hanging up no time soon. She's still here. She's still somebody, that needs to be reckoned with. And she is still someone you need to acknowledge. Well, you're going to acknowledge her regardless because with or without this season, she's one of the all time greats,
Mhm.
but she's one of the all-time greats already, and yet she is still arguably at the top of her game. But then you have Kalea Copper, who they acquired, who is a real difference maker, and it's I think Brittany Griner said it best when they said, I'd rather play with her than against her because people, if we talk about underrated talent in the WNBA, Kalea Copper, without question, will be in that conversation. You can argue the conversation because she literally does everything that her team asks her to do. From the days with the Sky to the days now with the Phoenix Mercury, she has been that exceptional player. Like everyone who played, against her, regardless of what team they say, what team she's on, is it's always one rule. Anybody but Kalea. Do not let Kalea beat you. They circle their play around Kalea. But now Phoenix, it could be different because you got Brittany Griner, who has not lost a step, who's lost the season, a few months due to unfortunate circumstances. But we all glad that she's back home from that and she's back to the game she loved because we have definitely missed her and she has definitely made her presence known and has shown us by just showing up how much of a difference to the game of basketball, the WNBA, that she has been. So due to all of that, I'm low-key rooting for them because I'm afraid to say, even with the unfortunate injury of Cameron Brink, my LA Sparks stink. And, and I if I gotta root for a team like an underdog, I'm picking them because they have
Mhm.
overcame a lot, they have built a lot, and you wouldn't even be able to tell all they've been through due to where they are right now. So it definitely makes sense from the players, the chemistry, the experience, the offensive and defensive skills, and just their overall scheme, plays. All of that is going to matter. All of that's going to factor in. And if we talk in playoffs, you could definitely put this team in a conversation now because I think they're only going to get better moving forward from now and then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Phoenix fan this season because of the style of play. I just like that high tempo, green light type of shooting, spreading the floor. But yeah, with Brittany back, like you mentioned chemistry, and I think that's a big factor. And I think this team has been missing chemistry for a few years now, and they have it this year. You could see it. I think Kalia fits right in. I think she's great for this team. She's just another offensive weapon, and she can take over games. DT loves that. I know she likes having a partner that who can help carry on the offensive end in that way in the backcourt. And yeah, I think they definitely are looking good.
Yeah, they definitely are. But we speaking about teams, we speaking about chemistry. Let's talk about top players. So obviously, we both will have Aja Wilson up there. I
Yeah.
think we both will have Brianna Stewart. But who
Mhm.
else belongs in the top five in the WNBA of players?
Definitely have to have Alyssa Thomas up there because she's balling as usual. Nafisa Collier, I mentioned, she's playing really well. She's averaging 20 and 10, 20 points, 10 rebounds a game. Um, who else? Jonquel Jones, I feel like is having a really good season. She started off so good, way better than she did last season with New York. Dewana Bonner, you could throw up there. Caleb Bride, she's a bucket. So yeah, that's a handful, just right there.
Yeah, definitely a handful. I would definitely consider Joelle Lloyd. I would definitely consider, obviously we would say Skylar Diggins Smith, but we will have to see a little more from her moving forward. Kalea Copper can probably be a dark horse pick for that
Yeah,
category.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we talked about top players. We talked about, viewership. So it's time to get started on this topic. The Caitlin Clark saga is what I call it. Because many people just had, a cow and two chickens when they found out that she would not be a participant or be on the USA women's Olympic basketball team.
Mhm.
Obviously, she wasn't on the 5-on-5 with, those with Aja Wilson in the team, and she's not on the 3-on-3 either. So, what was your reaction when you found out that she was not on either one of those teams? Did you think that was the right or the wrong decision?
It's funny because I've been asked this question a lot in the past week or so, or whatever, since when the roster was revealed. Um, I was indifferent. Like, I wasn't upset by it. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't, like, oh my God, she should have been on the roster. And then again, I wasn't like, yeah, she should have made the roster. Like, I was indifferent, to be honest. And it's because, with the Olympic team, you really never know what you're gonna get. There are some staples like Diana Taurasi who you feel like, she's just ingrained in that team. She's ingrained in the process. And then, you're not really sure what they are going to do from a team standpoint. We are so guard heavy and
Yeah.
deep at that position. The fact that Caitlin missed some training camps and was able to, attend, unable to attend certain practices and get some time in with that roster, or people who were they were considering to make that roster. Chemistry matters. And we were just talking about it. And then you have the politics at play. There's always politics at play when it comes to these types of things. The argument about viewership, I wasn't. You could totally leave that for me. That wasn't a needle mover for me at all. I
Well,
get it, and I get what people are saying. But it wasn't at top of mind for me as something like, oh, they missed the boat, because I don't believe that. I think there's this big rise in attention to women's basketball right now, and yes, a lot of that can be attributed to Caitlin Clark. But I do feel, because there's so many people paying attention now, not only just because of Caitlin, but because they're getting introduced to other players and other teams, and they're open minded. The viewership for the Olympic, for the women's national team with basketball this year, I think is going to go up anyway. Maybe not to the extent as if Caitlin was on it. Let's be honest, but it's still. I feel like the numbers are still going to be good. So yeah, that wasn't a big. I didn't really pay much attention to that side of it.
yeah, I gotta agree with you because here's the deal. I don't personally, I wouldn't want her on this 5-on-5 team, to be more exact, because people don't get these are some of the best players we had to offer in America, let alone the WNBA, for the past at least 5 to 10 years. Diana Taurasi, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart. If I'm not mistaken, Kelsey Plum's on that team, but I know Jackie Young is up there. Chelsea Gray, if I'm not mistaken, is on that team. It's a lot of women who, and these are former, WNBA champions that are on this team. So it's women who have won at the highest levels, competed at the highest levels. If I'm not mistaken, Alyssa Thomas is on that team as well. So, and this is the thing, and excuse me for my language, but these are grown ass women, and everybody complained how rough people been on Caitlin Clark, because we heard it all. Oh, they're playing too rough. They're playing too rough. You listen, you wanted the women to get down and dirty. Here it is. You got what you wanted. And then they don't understand that women in other countries play a lot more tougher than the women here. So what you think those women are going to do? It's like people don't understand the physicality that are really in the sport of women's basketball. So and then on top of all of that, she has not gotten a break since November of 2023. We talking nearly a year, over a little over 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of time to invest into, one sport with no breaks, no anything. Because it went from her season, she was just in the national championship, to the WNBA draft. Then between that, it was commercials and advertisementships, magazine covers, things like that. Then it's now training camp. Then it's preseason. Now we're in the season. It was like not even a month ago she was drafted, or just now making a month expand. So that matters when you bring all of that into play. She needed her well break, but I just don't think that this would have been a wise move to put him out there, because you also got to think about the safety of the players. You also got to think about the skill set. Yes, she is a phenomenal player, but she is, she's not, and I said this when I was in a space before on X, or what they say on Twitter, that she, to me, skill set wise, she is not ready to be on the USA Olympics team. It's the best that your country has to offer. And I think we have a real legit chance with the women that we have, because they're experienced, they've won at high levels, they've competed in the highest levels of the league, and then we just got this young pup who's just getting started. So I just think that everyone should just relax, let her get her skills developed, let herself get more physical, allow her to get her feet wet more in the league, and then next season we could start talking about her and Angel Reese and others being on this Olympics team. I think that they made the best move to bring the women that they have on the team. I think they made an exceptional move with the roster, because this is not based off of looks. This is not based off of viewership and popularity. This is based off of skill. This is based off of experience. This is based off the names that were already here that made the WNBA mean something, and who are still competing now at the highest levels, that needs to represent this country. That's what you want, because that's what Russia's doing. That's what, Brazil and others who have women basketball teams, that's what they're all doing. They're all are bringing their best that they have to offer. And I think the, USA women's Olympic team took the right route, and when they did the same thing. And that's just my take on it. I just don't feel like she should have been on the team. I don't feel she's ready. I think she needs, to relax them legs as much as possible. And I just feel like they need to allow her to stop letting her popularity, put her in positions that she's not ready for. Allow her to take a year, allow her to develop her skill, get her game going, get her feet wet, study the league more, watch film more. Not only watch film on herself, but watch film on players, so she know how to play against them and things like that. Just let her develop to be in the her that she was in the NCAA, and let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the rest part is huge. There was a video going around today about Rebecca Lobo answering about when she was fresh out of college when she made the '96 Olympic team, and we're talking that was like a super team. And she talked about how hard it was for her going straight from college, not having any rest, and having to train with this team. And they trained for a year before the Olympics because they did this national tour. It was kind of the jump off before the WNBA took off. So it was kind of the precursor to see how well they could attract attendance, whatever. So she was part of that whole marketing uh, plan herself. And she just talked about how hard it was, not having any rest, not having any recovery time, and how it sort of was a little bit debilitating, mentally and physically. And I think we could look at this situation with Caitlin, and we could apply the same thinking to that. I think I think you're right. I think Caitlin just needs a break. We saw with the rest between their, when they went to played 11 games, like in that crazy first month, and then had 5 days off, and what a change that made in just 5 days. How they played it differently after that, and um, getting the time off in July during the Olympic break is going to be good for her. And it's going
Yeah,
to be good for the overall conversation too. Like you said, people need to relax a little bit. And I think it's going to be good to have things quiet down just a bit in that regard.
I definitely agree. But moving forward, should we be concerned about this WNBA team? Now, we spoke on Chelsea Gray making her return. Obviously, she's a difference maker. She
Mhm.
was the X factor. You can argue behind A'ja Wilson in both of their WNBA championship runs, where they did successfully win the WNBA championship. But is there trouble in Las Vegas? Should fans be concerned with, how the Aces were playing, the fact that they're not where people expect them to be, even with being the top, 5 teams still in the WNBA? Would you be concerned if you was a fan?
Um, no, I think it's too early. I think it's too early. And also, like you mentioned, Chelsea Gray hasn't played, and I they made some roster changes too. They let go of Deja Fair, and I feel like not everything comes easy. I think we got so used to the way Las Vegas played last season and just how incredibly good they were, even when they were shorthanded in the playoffs and championship. They were just so good and so in sync, and they were just firing on all cylinders. And so to see them sort of come into the season and not necessarily dominate the way they were last season, everybody's like, "Whoa, what's going on with Vegas?" But to me, they're still one of the top tier teams. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. You have four
Definitely.
four players on that Vegas squad who are on the Olympic team. That says it all right there. They're going to be contenders. I'm not worried about it. I feel like they're gonna turn things around. And now that they have Chelsea Gray back, we'll see how many minutes she starts to get more consistently. But I think that's going to be a great morale boost for them as well going forward. So yeah, not concerned.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think, it's not what we expected, but listen, we all know when you get to the postseason, it doesn't matter what seed you are. Like, this is not the NFL. So it's really like no home court advantage, no home field advantage. You still gotta win your games either way. And yes, you're gonna have home games, but it's not everybody has to come to you, so, scenario. And as long as the Aces get in the dance, regardless of what seed they are, it's everybody still got to go through them, because if you don't, then you're not going to be the champions, because they will still be, and that will be their ultimate goal. But moving forward, let's ask this question now, because this is a question that I feel like I've asked, other guesses, but I want to ask you as well. If we talk about the expansion of the WNBA, them going to Toronto, them going to, the Bay Area, which I'm going to talk, a little bit more down the road. If you could bring back, though, one WNBA team, who would it be? The Charlotte Sting, the Sacramento Monarchs, or the Houston Comets?
I got to choose from this group right here.
Well, it
These
could be
these
either
four.
one of them. It could be either one of these three, or it can be someone else. But who would you bring back? And out of these three, who would you bring back? So I will give you two options.
Man, I loved the Charlotte Sting. Loved the Charlotte Sting. Big Don Staley fan. Um, so this is hard because the Houston Comets. I mean, that's like dynasty. There's so much
Yeah.
WNBA history wrapped up in that franchise. You
They were the
know,
aces before the aces.
um, I believe that they were they in theory because they were so dominant, winning 4 championships in a row. I mean, but I'm gonna go with the Charlotte Sting. I got a little soft spot in my heart for them. I think today re-upping that franchise in that same city would do very well. Um, I love to link back to history and I mean you could say the same for Houston, but I'm gonna go with Charlotte.
Yeah, I definitely have to, I'm going to go with the comments just because of the history. And honestly, I've been thinking of a fantasy matchup. The Houston Commons, the then versus the Las Vegas Aces, the now. I think that final would be a banger, and it will probably be another Lakers and Celtics, but we shall see. We don't know what the future holds, but we definitely can get into this. And this will be my last question before I let you go. Your top 5 WNBA players of all time. Rank them one
This
to
is
five.
so hard. This is so hard. Again, another conversation that I've had, because it's so subjective. There are so many greats. Um, so, all right, I'm gonna name five. I'm not gonna put them in any order just yet. Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Cynthia Cooper, who, the wild thing about Cynthia is she didn't even play in the WNBA until she was in her 30s. So who knows what she would have done had she had the chance to come out of college. That's the wild thing. Did I say Diana Taurasi already?
Yep, you said
Okay,
Candace
so it's
Parker,
Diana,
Diana Taurasi.
Candace, Cynthia, Cheryl Swoops, my dog. I love Cheryl. Always been a fan. And I'm gonna go with Lisa Leslie, first player to ever
Ah,
dunk.
there you go.
So out of those five, if I gotta pick the order, I would go Candace, Cynthia, DT, Cheryl, Leslie.
Even valid, Candace will be number one on my list too, out of bias reasons because she's my favorite player. But Lindsey, that's all I have for you. I'll have to let you go. If you guys have not already, please give this lady a follow on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D'Arcangelo21, as she will be giving more of her great takes on the WNBA along with women's basketball in general. Lindsey, once again, thank you for joining this show. This is your host, Shae, signing off, and this has been the ShaeMac Show.
Thanks, Shae.
Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of the ShaeMac Show. This is your host, Shae, signing out. Click the follow and subscribe button now for more episodes and to get updates on the show. To view more content from the show, give us a follow on your favorite platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and much more, all at the ShaeMac Show. And you can give me, your host, a follow on those same platforms at ShaeMac Sports.